Hello, everyone. My name is Mercedes. I am the webinar specialist here at TraceGains. I'm actually joined with my colleague, John Thorpe, a principal and product manager, and I'm along with Ty, the director of business development at SGS Digicomply. I think I should let you guys have the floor and kind of introduce who you are.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Mercedes. My name is John Thorpe. I'm a principal product manager here at TraceGains. My focus is on expanding and growing our network, including building out our sourcing tools like Market Hub and even our integrated data suites like Smart Alerts, as well as helping improve supplier and manufacturer relationships and how they collaborate on our platforms.
Thanks, John. My name's Ty Blasey, and I'm with SGS Digicomply. I'm the Director of Business Development here for North America. So specifically what I'm doing is I'm working closely with some of our large strategic customers on Digicomply focused implementations, and also working with our partners like TraceGains on finding new ways to deliver our data into new customer segments.
So I kind of want to jump right into this because it's a question that I'm getting asked a lot, especially within my webinars, is how has the pandemic changed the global CPG business and supply chain? Are the changes for good?
Yeah, that's a great question. You know, our industry in a lot of ways was resilient in the face of a lot of challenges we saw in the supply chain. After a major initial shock for our industry, food, dietary supplements, and beverage companies have continued to deliver goods, much needed goods to customers over the last 2 years of the pandemic. I think what we've seen, however, is a lot of persistent challenges that I think are changing the way that businesses are run and changing the way that software needs to support these businesses. So that can include things like increased likelihood of supply chain disruptions, obviously, greater demand volatility impacting sourcing, procurement, and even our supplier relationships, rising costs in logistics, changing consumer preferences, right? As more consumers are going to the grocery store or as more consumers are trying out new types of goods, that change is happening at a faster pace. And we're also seeing in many ways decreased brand loyalty.
On my side, I guess to add on to that, I'm kind of seeing two areas. I think you've spoken to both of them in some degree. On one side, what we're seeing is, I think, how companies are evolving or changing within their internal environment. So there's a lot of certainly issues to be dealt with from that, how companies are even just working, how they're managing their day-to-day operations, how they're collaborating amongst a disparate group of team members, often working remotely or in new locations. So there's a lot of, I think, need there for kind of new systems, new ways of working to just really be more efficient, do more with less at the end of the day. And then on the other side, I think looking at more what's happening in the market, one of the things that we certainly see is, yes, kind of this innovation of products continues, that there still remains a lot of interest for customers to try out new products. They want innovative ingredients, they want new functions, and we see that in food supplements, but also in more traditional consumer packaged good food related products. So a lot happening for sure.
And you know, a lot of the issues that Ty brings up have led to a lot of changes that we're seeing in software, in particular how companies are using software to meet the challenges. We're seeing accelerated shifts in SaaS applications, shifts to SaaS applications, cloud applications, with an expectation that those tools facilitate collaboration, not only inside of companies, but also with your supply chain and the suppliers on it. We're also seeing more investment and really leading to a lot of our relationship in tools that help companies monitor supply chain risks and enable more agility and responsiveness. So that's an area where we're seeing a definite shift and growth, and that's where we're really investing our two relationships together and growing.
Well, I guess the pressing question is, how can companies continue to innovate given current constraints and uncertainties?
That's a great question. You know, a recent Gartner study came out looking at how companies can effectively respond to supply chain challenges, right? It's not always easy or sometimes impossible to have a crystal ball to know what's coming, but being able to respond quickly means identifying and having the right information surface to you, having systems and processes that can react in an agile way to those issues, and being able to understand how those issues affect your supply chain. So if we look at, in particular, SaaS companies and how companies on the supply chain are using SaaS products today, they're expecting products to really be able to integrate data, so early alerts, early warnings, into their platforms, into their systems of record, so they can have insights into issues as they arise and understand the implications right away for their supply chain. They can make decisions with data at hand that lets them make better decisions. And what we're seeing in particular is a real challenge for legacy systems in particular that kind of create silos of companies. And we say that because with a high degree of customization, a high degree of differentiation from other types of suppliers or manufacturers that you work with, it's hard to collaborate. It's hard to work together. So when you surface an issue, when you receive a shock to your supply chain, it's really hard to react quickly if your suppliers can't interact with your system or can't speak the same language as you, or each of your suppliers speaks different languages with respect to systems and how they integrate together. So really we're seeing companies really focus on working together on platforms that facilitate collaboration and at the same time can surface insights in places where decisions need to be made.
It's all about the data, and I think you touched on a lot of the things. What we see is, innovation can happen when you start really also combining data. So we're thinking here public data, data obviously that's made available in the public realm, but also what data is coming from labs, what data is coming from your own company internal data sources, and what data is coming from your supplier network, which is incredibly, I think, interesting. So when these come together, that's where I think there's really some new insights that can happen, new risk detection possibilities, and allowing companies to identify things before in a proactive manner as opposed to in a reactive one.
So while keeping innovation in mind, let's get to the real insider news here. Why TraceGains and why Digicomply?
Yes. So, from our side, I'd like to say, SGS Digicomply, we are really excited about this partnership and what it's going to do in the market. We have really high expectations, and what we see is that Digicomply as a product, it has more and more, I think, recognition. It's got a good user interface. People can log on, access it, find information, be notified, and that's all valuable. But now that we've established ourselves over the years, we've built up this data source, as I was just saying previously, that data is becoming more and more powerful. And so being able to find new sources to leverage that is where we think there's really going to be a lot of possibilities. And so this is really, I think, where TraceGains comes into play. I mean, from our side, this is our first partnership. We don't have plans to really do much more than this. And so we were really looking for a partner with strong recognition in the marketplace. I think a really strong user base. People know TraceGains as a product. So by us providing data, we already know that there's a user base out there who already know and are trained up on a product with strong recognition in the industry. And so that's another very, I think, important point. And then deep industry expertise. I mean, we both, I have really come from a strong product background, but we've also focused heavily in our industries, and TraceGains, I think, with their reputation really shows that there's that they have a deep knowledge in this area and in the strong software heritage. So like I said, we're looking forward to moving ahead, getting out there, talking to customers, sharing what we're doing, and are excited about this combined partnership going forward.
Yeah, TraceGains on our side, it's the same sentiment. We're extremely excited. We know, and most of our customers know Digicomply as the global leader in data, being able to extract, whether it's alerts, regulatory data, articles related to alerts or regulatory data, or even, as Ty mentioned, pulling in labs, scientific information, all of that data and at a global scale. And what we as TraceGains really value the partnership because we can focus for our customers, again, on bringing the data into their systems. As Ty mentioned, combining that data with data that only you have about your suppliers. How responsive are they? How are your inbound lots coming in with respect to your COAs? All of that information can come together. And what our goal with TraceGains and in partnering with Digicomply is to pull that information into places in the platform where you're making decisions, where you're making decisions about relationships, where you're making decisions about formulations, or most importantly, through our data thread technology, tying ingredients into formulas, into finished goods specs, into the manufacturing floor. Our real focus is ensuring that if some incident happens, you can remain agile by knowing immediately the impact throughout your operations, and being able to then start off any processes you need to do to react to it. So again, we're extremely excited to have this global data set and be able to work with it.
Well, it sounds like the partnership of the year, if you ask on my end. We're looking forward to all the great things that will come from it. I want to thank our product principal manager, John Thrope, and Ty Blazley from Digicomply as well for joining me for a quick insider session on what's to come in 2022.